Hello, best learners. This is Mustafa here at Learn with the Best, and we've got an amazing video for you today. We're going to be looking at Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Law number 23, concentrate your forces. First, I'm going to define the law for you, and then we'll go over a few short stories from the book, and we'll finish up with how you can implement this law into your own life for attaining maximum power. Here's the law. Conserve your forces and energies by keeping them concentrated at their strongest point. You gain more by finding a rich mine and mining it deeper and deeper than by fleeting from one shallow mine to another. Intensity defeats extensity every time. When looking for sources of power to elevate you, find the one key patron, the fat cow, who will give you milk for a long time to come. If you could distill this law into one word, then that word would be focus. Create an intense focus on one thing that you're good at and do just that one thing. Do not allow yourself to be distracted by golden trinkets here and there. People all over the internet will try to tell you that their book can teach you how to make millions, or their course can show you how to turn yourself into an overnight billionaire. Ignore all of these distractions and only focus all of your time and energy on the one thing that you're good at. Never spread yourself too thin across many different tasks. Concentrate your forces. Once upon a time, in early 6th century BC China, the kingdom of Wu began a war with the neighboring provinces of the Middle Kingdom. Wu was a growing power, but it lacked the great history and civilization of the Middle Kingdom, which was the center of Chinese culture. By defeating the Middle Kingdom, the king of Wu would instantly raise his status and power. The war began with great energy and multiple victories, but it quickly grew tiresome. A victory on one front would leave the Wu armies vulnerable on another front. The king's chief minister and advisor, Tenzin, warned the king that a third province to the south was beginning to notice the kingdom of Wu's problems, and they were thinking of invading. The king scoffed it off and said that he only needed one more big victory, and then the Middle Kingdom would be his. Tenzin sent his son away to safety deep inside the kingdom, where he was safe from any harm, and in doing so he sent the king a signal that he disapproved of the war. The king, falsely sensing betrayal, lashed out at the minister, accusing him of disloyalty, and the king ordered Tenzin to kill himself. Tenzin obeyed the king, but before he plunged the knife into his own chest, he said, "Tear my eyes out and fix them on the gates of our kingdom, so that I may see the triumphant entry of our enemies." As Tenzin had predicted, within a few years, the enemy had sent a large army and breached the gates, taking the kingdom of Wu. The king remembered his minister's last words, and he felt the dead man's disembodied eyes watching him in disgrace. Unable to bear his shame, the king killed himself, covering his face so that he would not have to meet the gaze of his minister in the next world. The story of Wu is a paradigm of all the empires that have come to ruin by overreaching. Drunk with success and sick with ambition, such empires expand to insane proportions that cannot be maintained, and as a result, they meet a complete and total ruin. Similarly, the mind must not be allowed to wander from goal to goal or be distracted by success from its sense of purpose and proportion. What is concentrated, coherent, and connected to its past is power. What is dissipated, divided, and distended rots and falls to the ground. Now let's look at another story from the book, but before we do that, I need your help with YouTube's algorithm. Please simply engage with this video. Things like subscribing and commenting, also sharing the video with your friends and your social networks. All of these engagements really do help me out a lot. And if you want to transform yourself from a lamb to a lion, then check out my course pinned in the top comment below. I will teach you the tools that you need for success, but you have to actually step up and put in the work on yourself. This course is not for everyone because the majority of the population are sheep, but for those very few of us who do want to walk the path of a lion, this is the course for you. Okay, let's get back into it. The Rothschild banking family had humble beginnings in the Jewish ghetto of Frankfurt, Germany. The city's very harsh laws made it impossible for the Jewish people to mingle outside of their ghetto, but the people had turned this into a virtue. It made them self-reliant and it energized them to preserve their culture at all costs. Mayor Amschel, the first of the Rothschilds to accumulate wealth by lending money, understood the power that comes from this kind of concentration and cohesion. Mayor Amschel allied himself with one powerful family, the Princes of Thurn. Instead of spreading his services out, he made himself the prince's primary banker. Next, he entrusted none of his business to outsiders, using only his children and close relatives. The more unified and tight-knit the family, the more powerful it would become. Soon enough, Mayor Amschel's 5 sons were running his business, and when Mayor Amschel was dying, he refused to name a principal heir, instead setting up all of his sons to continue the family tradition so that they would stay united and would resist the dangers of diffusion and infiltration by outsiders. Once the sons controlled the family business, they decided that the key to wealth on a larger scale was to secure a foothold in the finances of Europe as a whole, instead of being tied to any one country or prince. Of the 5 brothers, Nathan opened up in London, James moved to Paris, Amschel Jr. remained in Frankfurt, Solomon established himself in Vienna, and Karl, the youngest of the brothers, went to Naples. With each sphere of influence covered, they could tighten their hold on Europe's financial markets. This widespread network opened the Rothschilds to the very danger of which their father had warned them against: diffusion and division. However, they avoided this pitfall and built themselves as the most powerful force in European finance by resorting to the strategy of the ghetto, excluding outsiders and concentrating their forces. The 5 brothers established the fastest courier system in Europe, allowing them to get news of events before all of their competitors. They held a monopoly on information, and their internal messages were all written in a Yiddish code that only the brothers could decipher. There was no point in anyone stealing this information because no one else could ever hope to understand it. The 5 brothers were like the mechanism of a watch. Each part was essential. Every part of the business moved in conjunction with every other, and these inner workings were invisible to the outside world, which only saw the movements of the hands. The world is plagued by greater and greater division within countries, political groups, families, and even in your own mind. With shorter and shorter attention spans, we are all in a state of distraction, glued to our iPhones and constantly checking for likes on Facebook and Instagram. We're hardly able to keep our minds in one direction before we're pulled in 1,000 others. The solution to this problem is a form of retreat inside of ourselves. Our intellect is a magnitude of our intensity and not our extensity. Casanova credited his success in life to his ability to concentrate on a single goal. It was his ability to give himself over completely to the women that he desired, which made him so intensely seductive. For the weeks or months that one of these women lived in his orbit, he thought of no one else. When he was imprisoned in the treacherous Doggies prison in Venice, a prison from which no one had ever escaped, he concentrated his mind on the single goal of escape. When the guards changed his cells, it meant that months of digging had all been for nothing, But it did not discourage him. He persisted and eventually he escaped. I have always believed, he later wrote, that when a man gets it into his head to do something, and when he exclusively occupies himself in that design, he must succeed, whatever the difficulties. So concentrate your forces on a single goal, a single task, and beat it into submission. If you like my YouTube content and you want to support me and support the creation of even more content, then please check out my Patreon link pinned in the top comment below. I upload new videos every Friday for my Patreon subscribers that go deeper into my life regarding the 48 laws of power. These videos are a bit more raw and untamed than my usual videos here on YouTube. And if you're a patron of mine already, then I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it's people like you that truly make all of this even possible in the first place. I hope you enjoyed this animated video on Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Law number 23, concentrate your forces. And remember, you only retain about 10% of what you learned the first time around. So watch this video through a few times and then come back to it again and again in order to really understand and ingrain all of the material into your mind. Thanks, and I'll see you next time for Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, Law number 24.